following presentation is for educational purposes only. All of the symbols, trading ideas, and live trading are for demonstrational purposes and are not recommendations or trading advice. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All of the information and opinions expressed by third-party guests are their own and are not necessarily those of NinjaTrader LLC. Trading futures involve substantial risk and may not be suitable for everyone, and trading futures can result in losses greater than the initial required margin. Traders should only trade futures with risk capital. Risk capital is money that you can afford to lose without jeopardizing your financial security or current lifestyle. You can find additional disclosure information on the NinjaTrader website.
Let's talk futures. Hailing from Dublin, Ireland, Créde Sheehy-Kelly. Créde, how are you?
I'm very good. Thanks, Jim. You nailed my name. I'm very proud of you.
I could barely speak the English on this side of the pond. And when you get over there, all the words are a little different.
In fairness, it's in the Gaelic language, so I wouldn't expect anyone really to know it. But I'm delighted to be here. Really excited for our chat.
No, I appreciate that. Well, let me ask you, is Gaelic kind of a spoken language by a lot of folks over there?
It's a really interesting question. So there's 3 areas in the country where it's a first language and everyone has to learn it in school. So like you learn it for whatever, about 16 years in school, but most people are pretty bad at it. So there's only 3 small areas of the country where it's a first language.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here for sure. And I'm so glad I found you. I mean, you're a high performance coach for traders and elite athletes. You've married these 2 things together.
So basically high performers. So anyone in a high performance domain where you have to perform under extreme pressure. So like traders, athletes, business people to a certain extent. I've worked with pilots, opera singers. So I've been coaching for 16 years. So it's been quite the journey, but I'm kind of laser focused now on athletes, actually mostly traders at the moment, but I'm still working with a few athletes as well. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then you're a PSI chartered psychologist.
Yeah. So I'm chartered as a high performance psychologist in Ireland, but it's just a little bit of a different route to qualification in Ireland than in America. So it's actually interesting. In America, my understanding is that you qualify as a clinical psychologist and then you add specializations, but I'm actually like super focused in high performance. So that was my whole education was kind of around sport and performance on the psychology side.
Well, that's fantastic. And, there's not a lot of folks like you. We have Dr. Gary Dayton, who comes on every once in a while. He's a trading psychologist. And it's such an important aspect of what we do when we day trade or position trade or whatever type of trading we're doing is the mental game, the mental aspect of how to maintain a high level performance. And it's really a kind of an afterthought sometimes.
100%. It's like, so, and I'll be really upfront, and I hope people don't throw like virtual tomatoes at me, but I don't actually trade myself. So like my specialization is in helping people to master themselves. But what I've seen in trading, and I mean in sport as well, but there's a point where when you have the technical side down, like, so obviously that's the first thing to work on in trading. But when you have that down and you know exactly what you should be doing in the market, then the biggest obstacle to success becomes yourself, like actually executing on that plan. And that's where a lot of people fall down. And I think maybe not enough traders understand that you can actually work on your mental edge in the same systematic way that you can work on your technical edge. So it doesn't need to be this stumbling block that you fight with for like 20 years of a trading career. You can actually, put a systematic structure in place to address it and to get control of your mindset and your emotions so that you can ultimately make more profit.
So it's more than just having the set of your 10 rules, right? I have 10 rules. I'm going to follow these 10 rules. I don't have to worry about trading on tilt or FOMO.
Absolutely. Yeah. If it was that easy, I'd probably be out of a job, to be honest. But it's really about, like, people have a plan, but then when you actually go and you try and execute that plan and you find that you're not doing it, that's where this element of like self-sabotage comes in. And usually it goes as deep into your psyche as your subconscious mind actually coming and taking over your trading. So the biggest frustration is when people, they have a daily loss limit, they have a stop loss, they know how many trades they should be taking in a day or like a limit on that. And then they just sail past them all. So they don't stop when they know they should stop. Or on the opposite side of that, maybe they're feeling that fear and that hesitation and they see an entry appear, their setup appears and they don't take it. And that's all, you blocking yourself. It's something getting in the way of you actually executing on your plan. And so that's really what I help people with, is just they come to me already with the plan in place. So they have done all of the working out on the technical side. They know exactly what they should be doing in the market. And then they're just not able to actually do that for various different reasons. And that's exactly what I help people with.
So is this part of my personality, though, how I'm going to behave when I'm in the heat of battle?
It definitely does. I mean, your personality plays into it, but also it's useful to approach it with a growth mindset. So just meaning that anything can be learned or unlearned. So what actually, for me, the biggest factor that I've seen that impacts people is, and this is going to sound like we're getting very heavy, but it's so common. Like every single trader I've worked with has had this at play to some extent, but trauma in your subconscious mind. So, or even I'll give a lighter example. If somebody grew up in a culture or in a family environment where they had a scarcity kind of mindset around money, so maybe money was scarce, or their parents were talking about how money doesn't grow on trees, or, you know, that gets bedded into your subconscious mind. And then your subconscious rules 95% of your actions. So if you're trading, and even if your conscious goal is to make money and you have all of this baggage sitting in your subconscious mind, that's actually what's going to come to the fore and drive your trading. So in concrete terms, if you had money mindset issues in your subconscious, that could look like revenge trading, trading on tilt, hesitating to take a trade. So just really being driven by the P&L as opposed to the execution of your plan. So for me, more than personality, it's really about all of these elements of your mind that you can actually work on and change.
So that's, I mean, I'm now I'm analyzing myself now that you're saying that. I mean, when I was growing up, I had a good childhood. You know, we didn't have a lot of money, but I had a good childhood. We weren't, you know, wanting for anything, but we were taught, you know, that's not worth the money. Don't do that. It's not worth the money. Don't spend it, save it. Right. That's how we were taught. And so now that I'm thinking of myself as a trader, I'm kind of conservative.
Yeah, so that's probably an example of it playing out. And I should just really clarify, it doesn't mean that if this is happening for traders, it doesn't mean that they've had a bad childhood or there's some, like, you know, really serious trauma there. It's more that your whole subconscious mind is shaped by your experiences. So a different example from what could be a very, you know, healthy kind of positive family environment would be starting to link your self-worth with achievement. So it could be a very supportive family, but maybe the child is driven to achieve and the parents encourage that. And then the child who becomes the adult trader has a connection between achieving and then, you know, that kind of making them feel like they have more value as a person. And so they start to make that connection. And to me, that is actually the single biggest subconscious limiting program that I see in traders that impacts their trading, is linking your trading results with your self-worth. Because if you're doing that, then there's a lot more than money on the line, and that creates much more highly charged emotions when you're trading. So the ultimate thing is to, you know, people say they want to trade like a robot or trade like they've ice in their veins, and they basically want to remove all emotion so that it's easier to stick to their plan. But the way that you do that is actually by working at this really deep level. So God, I've gone really deep for a light conversation. We're straight in there, but
yeah, no, you know, and we're going to dig into that in a second. We're going to dig into that in a second. So, but just kind of marrying to the athlete part. So I'm a father of what I think was a high performing athlete, and it got to the point where the psychological edge was more important than, you know, the physical. They've already trained, they're already, you know, strong and have a lot of endurance, and they know the sport pretty well. And then, but so does their competitor. In this case, it's another person as opposed to a market. But then, who's got that psychological edge? Who's got that confidence to win, basically? And so, do you see the same thing here in trading? Exactly,
and like you've nailed it there as well. So, like if you think of the Olympics, when people get to that level, if you're in an Olympic final, you're technically nearly on par. Like everyone who's there is technically at the best of the best. So it is those tiny advantages in how you can master your own mindset that can give you that split second of a difference that can mean the difference between winning or losing. And in trading, it is the same. It's, you know, the similarities between the mindset required for professional elite sports and the mindset required for trading is just so similar. It blew me away when I started working with traders and, you know, saw that kind of just how aligned they were. But it's exactly the same with trading. and I don't want to, because I don't trade, I don't want to say that it's easy to get the technical piece down, because, you know, I don't want to do a disservice to how challenging it is to get that dialed in. But at a certain point, it's there, you have your plan, you know what you should be doing. And then it really is the challenge is, how do you perform under pressure? So how can you stick to your plan when you've had 3 losing trades in a row? How do you make sure that you don't suddenly start trading based on the P&L and trying to recover those losses, rather than just resetting to neutral and treating the next trade as a completely blank slate? You know, how do you detach emotionally from losses so that they don't start affecting you the following day? It's all of those small but really important ways of you taking control of your mindset and your emotions. If you can become skilled in that, then that really is the secret to success.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, if I have 3 bad trades in a row or 4 bad trades in a row, then I start, I could tell I'm losing a little bit of confidence, which is going to make my performance the next day even worse, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so it makes sense. I'm just like, there's so many different aspects to that. So
Yeah.
if someone's dipping in confidence after a few trades, I mean, it's natural, like, of course, but you want to have techniques in place to maintain that confidence. So sometimes people think that confidence is like water in a glass, you know, it drains and there's nothing you can do about it. But actually, if you start using very practical techniques, even if that happens, so it's kind of natural that your confidence would be dented. We're not saying that that's abnormal. But if you use these techniques then, and they can be really simple, straightforward things, then you can actually work on boosting your confidence in the moment so that you can maintain that level of performance. So it's like you're constantly making small adjustments and using practical techniques to stay on top of all of that. Same with motivation. I mean, if someone has, you know, a few really bad weeks of trading, then their motivation can plummet, and then they slack off maybe on doing their daily review, or they're not doing as detailed prep in the pre-market. So motivation is also a skill or kind of a variable that you can actually work on to keep that topped up as well. So I think it's about really understanding that all of this is within your control.
Well, and then in that scenario, then you start thinking, well, maybe I should be doing something else. Maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I see that a lot with, I've had many conversations with traders where they're feeling like it has to happen now, or I have to give up because I've given this so much. And usually the people that I work with are highly motivated, because they're not going to be bothered addressing the psychology if they're not super motivated. So when I see that, it always feels like people are, you know, they want it so much, they're so passionate about trading. And when they get to that point, they're at that breaking point and they know that they have to do something different. And that's usually when they're really open to actually putting a system in place in terms of their mental edge. But it's natural. It is natural that performance would impact those type of variables like motivation and confidence. But if you put the right system in place on the mental edge side of it, they don't have to impact them so catastrophically. You know, it's easier to just maintain that balance and keep going. So I think that's what the goal is, really.
Yeah. And so traders, unlike athletes, have actually 2 kind of things they're up against, right? Number one is money, right? We're trading real money. This is our money. It's very important, right? And then the second part is, I want to be right. I'm smarter than the market. I'm smarter than the other traders. I want to be right. So there's 2 levels of, 2 bars so to jump over to be happy.
It's interesting that you say that, because, and sometimes, you know, when people are talking about sport, they don't necessarily think straight to the professional side of it. But actually, when you're talking about money for the professional athlete, like, there is money on the line. I know it's about the passion and all of that, but like, there is genuinely money on the line. There's contracts on the line for how well you perform. Same with professional coaches. There's win bonuses if you win specific matches. So there is an element of it also being a career there. And even actually with an athlete, there's a lot of pressure on that, because it has to happen within a certain time frame. Like, you know, they'll be retiring when they hit mid-30s if they're doing well. And there is also that ego aspect. And I mean, ego in a very respectful way, but like in the psychology sense of the word. So traders want to be right. Athletes have a lot of pride on the line, and they, you know, that is something very tangible that really does drive them. So I actually see them as nearly more similar than they might look on the surface. But definitely that need to be right is something that shows up so often in traders. And sometimes that's actually more of a factor in driving indiscipline in trading than the P&L. So sometimes if someone is very attached to the idea of being right, especially in their subconscious mind, then it's not really about the money that's lost. It's about the fact that the market proved them wrong as they interpret. But also what's really interesting is that if people have come to trading from a different profession, so for example, sales or the military, where you had to be right. So I've worked with a lot of people who were in the military where you have to be right, or there's, you know, pretty catastrophic consequences. People can die. And so they were taught through a military career to try and strive for perfection, to, you know, never allow mistakes, never be wrong. And then they take that mindset to trading, and actually it doesn't serve you in trading. It's a completely different requirement when you're trading. You can't have that belief of I can't possibly be wrong, or I can never accept a loss, or it will actually undermine your performance. So that's that inability or that unwillingness to be wrong is something that can really trip traders up for sure.
So that's interesting, because, you know, we've interviewed some very high level trading professionals in our shows that have verifiable track records that are looked at as, you know, as subject matter experts and great traders, and they'll be the first to admit, I have a lot of losing trades.
Yeah, it's so I actually talk about this a lot. I do talk about it in my masterclass as well. You don't have to be perfect in order to be profitable. You just have to follow your trading plan. So when people get stuck in that assumption that I have to be perfect, it always has to be green, I have to end the day green, that's something that will derail your trading. It actually increases indiscipline. And when you look at the traders that make it, the highly successful traders, exactly that. They understand that the rules of the game require them to be able to accept losses. So a good analogy is like a casino. The casino doesn't freak out when people are winning on the slot machines, because the whole structure, like their entire strategy, allows for some losses, but they know that overall they're going to be profitable. So, you know, it's not if someone wins on the slot machines, the casino management aren't losing sleep over it, because it's just part of the game. They know that that has to happen in order to make money at the end of the day. And I think the traders who are most successful understand that, they're able to accept it. I mean, it still hurts. Nobody likes a loss, but I think they can understand that that is actually what's required. Like that's part of the job description. So it's not necessarily a loss, like one loss that's going to derail your whole trading account. It's the actions that you take after that loss determine the impact or the consequences of it on your trading. So I think that's something that can really be helpful to people to understand, if the skill is actually to become a ninja in bouncing back and recovering from losses rather than avoiding them in the first place.
That totally makes sense. And by the way, when I go to a casino, the casino managers are smiling. They're happy I'm there.
Always.
Just so you know. Well, let me ask you this then. So one of my top rules, one of my top 3 rules is patience, right? Because we have a tendency to want to chase things. We have a tendency to want to change our minds. I'm going to move my stop because the market's wrong, but I'm right. I just need a little more breathing room. And so my number one thing is patience. Once you have your strategy set, just be patient and wait. And I have, you know, we have dopamine, we have adrenaline, we have all sorts of stuff going through our heads. How do I control that? How do I keep patient?
That's really important. Patience is, yeah, absolutely one of the key aspects of the mental edge to work on. I guess one way to approach it is to look at what would be disrupting, like what would be creating impatience. So what is it in your psychology that might be driving the opposite of that? And then to work on resolving that. So the outcome is that you are then more patient. I think that's kind of the way to approach it, rather than necessarily trying to cultivate more patience. It's like looking at what's getting in the way of me being patient and waiting for that A+ setup to appear. And again, coming back to those subconscious beliefs or a preoccupation with the P&L, so scarcity mindset, all of that, those can be the type of programs that are running in your subconscious mind that cause you to feel impatient, so feel FOMO or feel an urgency to get into the trade. So it creates emotions that then drive you to take actions that break your rules. So for example, to jump into the non-A+ setup. So maybe the setup hasn't quite materialized, but you're eager to get into it really quickly, so you don't have that patience. So it's kind of looking at where are the obstacles to patience and then removing them. And then it becomes easy to just follow the plan.
All right. So, but are there actual tools that you could use to kind of train your mind to be more patient, or to kind of follow the rules?
Absolutely. So that's my whole approach to trading psychology, is very practical. Like, you know, the same way that you would train your muscles in the gym using different exercises, we train our minds using practical exercises and techniques. And all of the techniques that, or at least that I apply with traders, are coming from usually sports psychology. So the science of sports psychology, and then applying them here. So one of my absolute hands down favorite mental training tools is affirmations. And I know, as I say that, if anyone has heard of affirmations, they might be groaning or thinking like, you know, that's a bit of a hippie thing to do. But honestly, 16 years of working with high performers across loads of different domains, this is the single mental training tool that, if you do it right, can create life-changing transformation. So you can write affirmations that target patience. So for example, I wait like a tiger stalking its prey for my A+ setup to appear. So that's one of my favorite affirmations. But basically you write them into a script, and then you record that in your voice and you listen every day. So it's a tool that you can actually use to reprogram your mind at the subconscious level. So that's definitely a way. I mean, it's good to do it, to target it from both angles. So one is figuring out what are those subconscious limiting beliefs that are disrupting patience, or the dopamine and adrenaline, you know, figuring out what's blocking it. And then on the other side of it, bolstering that with like programming these deep beliefs that support patience. And that's, I mean, it works. Like, I have a lot of examples of it really making a difference to people and genuinely helping them with discipline and consistency. So I think that of all the tools that I would recommend, if someone was like, I don't have loads of time to invest into psychology at the moment, I just want one tool to try out to see if this makes a difference, I would say affirmations would be the tool to try.
So that's awesome. So for me, now what I'm going to do is I write things down with a pencil and paper. I think I remember stuff better that way than just, recording it or typing it. Right? Is that a thing? Writing down something helping with your memory a little better?
So definitely. I mean, I'm going to be, sometimes I would be like, go stick with what works for you. But for affirmations, I'm really pedantic about it. So writing it down would help. It's better than not doing it. But actually this way of recording it in your own voice and listening every day, even if you're normally not a person that, listens to things, you're more visual or whatever, doing it this way is what reprograms your mind at the subconscious level, because it's very hard for your brain to argue with your own voice saying that something is true. So you have to be really careful about how you word them. So you'd word them in the present tense. So let's say you wanted to program being, really rich or something. You wouldn't say, I will be a multimillionaire. You would say, I'm a multimillionaire. So you'd say it in the present. And then you have to phrase it in the positive sense. So instead of saying, I don't feel any impatience when I'm trading, you would say, I am calm and serene while I trade. I have the patience of a monk, or something like that. So you have to be really careful about how you word them. But I would write the script. Like, you can take a good amount of time to actually write the script and get it really dialed in and have the exact language that creates an emotional response in you. Basically, we're looking for like a buzz in you when you hear that statement. And if you get a script of sometimes it's about 40 statements long, and then you record that and you listen every day, to me, that's the most effective way of doing it. So writing it down would help, but you can't beat listening to your own voice, reading it with conviction.
You don't know this yet, but you just created a monster. I'm going to be doing this for the next couple of days, just creating the scripts and start. That's awesome. That's fit. That's yeah. So
I'm going to share the link at the end, but I have a free script that's exactly for traders. So very specifically created for traders on YouTube, and you can go to the transcript. So if you're looking for examples of statements, that transcript, you can actually find examples there, and you could use that as a basis then to create your own scripts. So all of those particular statements are targeted at the most common challenges that traders, that I see traders experience. So hopefully there'll be some in there, but it's more effective when it's in your own voice, and it's you use imagery as well in the words that evoke a reaction from you. So someone the other day on a group coaching call talked about, I think it was like having the precision of an Olympic archer when they were entering the trade. And I just thought that was a great image because it's so, if you just say I'm patient or precise when I enter a trade, it's nice, but it doesn't quite give you the same emotional hit as the image of an Olympic archer. So you can have a lot of fun with it. Like you can be quite creative with it for sure.
Okay, so real quickly, let me just ask you about belief perseverance, because I have this problem. So, as an example, and this isn't my personal belief perseverance problem, I have other ones, but we're having this big rally in the equity markets here in the US, and every day is an up day. Every day is an up day. Every day is an up day. So I tell myself, well, I can't go up any higher. I'm gonna get ready for the next trade. It can't go up any higher. I want to get short. And I know that that's the wrong attitude. Of course it could go higher, but that's my belief at the moment.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I work with people on a lot. So again, it's a multi-pronged approach. So for that, I would say the fix to that is one, to uncover the subconscious limiting programs that are telling you that. So there'll be a belief in your subconscious mind. And sorry to pick on you, but it's a good example. We don't have to figure out what it is, but likely there's a belief that, there's a ceiling on the amount of money I make, or I only deserve this much and not more. And that will translate into it. And it doesn't have to be that it's actually related to trading. Like usually when they're core beliefs, they're very kind of general and simple statements. But there'll be some program in you that is creating that expectation. And then paired with that on the more surface level, it's about really, and you can use affirmations for this as well, like programming that you're waiting for the market to give you the data, that you enter the market completely, unbiased, and you're working in flow with the market and you're reading what it's telling you. And so kind of you can work at this from a very deep level and from a surface level as well. But it is a very common challenge for traders. So it's about kind of first understanding why that's happening. Like, why is that bias or that expectation there in the first place? And then dissolving it through different mental training techniques.
Wow. All right. So I'm going to tell my partner, Tom Schneider, I am the market. I am the market.
Love it.
That's awesome. All right. So let's share some links here. So you have a couple of things you sent me that I want to share with everybody. We have, first of all, the affirmation link. And if Mission Control, if you can cut, let me see if I can get this to you guys really quickly here in the chat. If you could share this with the chatters in the chat sessions. This is the, what am I looking at here? This is the affirmations.
Yeah, video? That's it. So it's a YouTube video. You'll click on it and it'll start playing. So obviously you don't have to, you can have your eyes closed when you don't need to look at images, but it's a whole script. So it's about, I think it's about 12 minutes long, and you listen every day. So you could listen to that in the pre-market as part of your mental preparation. And it's the consistency of listening every day that will make it effective. So you might want to give it like 2 to 3 weeks of consistently listening before you actually see differences in your behavior in the market.
I got it. All right. So your website is Créde Performance, and that's spelled CREDE Performance.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And there's a free masterclass there as well, then for traders as well.
Yeah, let's pull this guy over. All right. So, and again, Mission Control, if you could share this link with the chat, I pushed it over to you guys in Zoom. There you have it. There. When does this start? It's a free class. You could always do it.
Yeah. So there's different times that people can opt for, and so it's pretty much ongoing.
Awesome. All right. That's fantastic. Masterclass-register is the URL. Well, we're up against time. We just hit the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I feel like I could talk to you for 7 more hours and still not get everything out that I wanted to ask. So hopefully we can get you back again.
I'd love to come back. It's been a pleasure. So thanks for having me on.
All of the symbols, trading ideas, and live trading are for demonstrational purposes and are not recommendations or trading advice. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All of the information and opinions expressed by third-party guests are their own and are not necessarily those of NinjaTrader LLC. Trading futures involve substantial risk and may not be suitable for everyone, and trading futures can result in losses greater than the initial required margin. Traders should only trade futures with risk capital. Risk capital is money that you can afford to lose without jeopardizing your financial security or current lifestyle. You can find additional disclosure information on the NinjaTrader website.